More reactions have continued to trail Vice President Yemi Osinbajo's declaration of presidential ambition. That's the Vice President of Nigeria. Support drums are being beaten across the length and breadth of the country, and criticisms have also come in full throttle. Nigerians have seen names being thrown up and now have an idea of who will be vying for the country's topmost political position. Now, the coming days even hold more in terms of more revelations, politicking, and strategies. Like the ruling All Progressives Congress, the People's Democratic Party is also gearing up to have the candidate who gives it the best shot at getting back to power for the first time since 2015. There is a less vaunted yet confident third force looking to cause an upset. These are the days Nigerians have waited for, and choices are more than ever crucial to the country, to the future of the country. Welcome to VSA. I'm Sulaiman Aledeh. Well, since Nigeria's Vice President Yemi Osinbajo declared to vie for the country's top office, many have spoken for and against this ambition. Shortly after Osinbajo's declaration, national leader of the ruling APC and presidential aspirant in the party, Bola Tinubu, also invited all the APC governors for a meeting. Other aspirants in the APC are Rotimi Amaechi, who is the transport minister, Dave Umahi, who's the governor of Ebonyi State, Oji Uzo-Kalu, and of course, Rochas Okorocha and Ogbonaya Onu. And from these names, there's obvious southern domination in the list of these presidential aspirants. Does this suggest where the APC may be headed? And in the PDP, where the choice for presidency has been thrown open, old faces are still in line. Former Senate President Dr. Bukola Saraki, Atiku Abubakar, Ayo Fayose Yesom Wike, who's the governor of Rivers State, Ayim Pius Ayim, former Senate President, Dele Momodu, a renowned publisher in Nigeria, Peter Obi, are all in line to be named the party's candidate. As we mentioned, the APC and the PDP, there is the third force, charging to make a difference. How late or too early is this? As the days inch closer, Nigerians will see, know, and hear more about these parties and their choices. Join me to talk about this all-important matter around Nigeria is Daniel Bwala. He's a member Lincoln's Inn, and Fouad Oki, who's an APC Chieftain. Gentlemen, thanks for your time. And very quickly, let's start with you, Fouad. Good to see you again. And Ramadan Mubarak. What do you have to say about the aspiration of the Vice President? Let's shoot it straight at you.
Ramadan Mubarak and Barrister Bwala, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you. Good to see you, sir.
So you recall about 6 or 7 weeks ago, or thereabouts, when Senator Bola Tinubu, came out with his statement that he had spoken with the president, and he told the president he's interested in running. You will remember what I said when you asked about Professor Yemi Osinbajo. And I said that Senator Bola Tinubu is one of the pretenders that has come out to contend, and that we're waiting for contenders. So the chicken is gradually coming home to roost. Other pretenders are coming out. We have not seen it all. And I think we still have about a week or thereabouts to begin to see the real contenders who will likely contest and possibly become the party's candidate. For me, it is a welcome idea. For those whose mind is discernible enough, I think we have started to see where the pendulum may likely fall. For Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, I cannot but only welcome him into the tough I hope you will be given an opportunity to sit on the hot seat. I hope he is ready to feel the heat in the kitchen. I think we are gradually getting it right in our party with the caliber of those that are interested in seeking the presidency. Time will tell. I think the next couple of weeks is going to be trying times for us as a people. It's going to be trying time for our party. Indeed, the new NWC, I can only pray for them. I can only hope that at the end of the day, they will not disappoint Nigerians. That is all I have for now. It's welcome, a very welcome idea. In fact, it is heartwarming that now we're moving from the space that have either to taken over by charlatans to people that are truly serious. But again, let's look at the next 1 or 2 weeks and we can come back to discuss them.
Well, Fouad, I'll come back to you. I won't wait for 2 weeks. I'll come back to you very quickly so that we can start talking about the contenders and pretenders. Let me get to Bola. Bola, you once said specifically...
An unfinished business, and now it can be a trial. Myself, Barrister Bola, and of course our brother, Afegbua. So we can really, look at all of these things. But I want to task and challenge my brother here that for those of us that have been speaking truth to power, I think this is the time for us to stand by our party, support the party so that they can make a success of this assignment. But we can only do that when we continue to speak truth to power.
I think
Nigeria
let me jump in here. Apologies. Let me jump in here quickly. And quickly before I get to Bola, Kasim Afegbua had just a few minutes to the program called in to say he will be on the show tomorrow, so he just won't be able to make it here. But again, Bola specifically, I'm so excited that you're here today. You're able to make it because you once said in an interview that Vice President Osinbajo won't contest in the 2023 elections because it will be morally injurious to him. Are you surprised he's declared?
Well, thank you for having me. Glad to be here today. And my senior brother, it's good to be with you today as well. And to come back to the question, I was not surprised that he eventually had to declare because after my last interview, I saw 1 or 2 activities around Professor Yemi Osinbajo that suggested to me that he was actually intending. But a few days ago, I had this inclination and feeling that the day he was going to make that announcement, he was going to announce that he will no longer run because I know for a fact that 1 or 2 activities around him would have clearly suggested to him that the president had not, contrary to the narrative his people are building, that the president has earmarked him as the endorsed candidate. And the president has in fact not endorsed anybody. But let's take him on the evidence of his declaration. He's a Nigerian citizen. He's a professor of law. He's a man of high repute and integrity. And he's somebody who has served as a vice president. He's still serving. And we're excited that he's coming into the race. He's joining the race, is adding more color, except for the fact that politics can be affected by so many variables and dynamics. In politics, anything is everything, and anything can affect everything about politics. Politics is not one idea or ideology where you attack it from one front. So many factors can determine whether or not one is favorite, whether or not one is morally right to proceed. So which is why you find politicians going to religious organizations to weigh in on their emotions and their support, going to market traders, the different strata of the society, they try to engage them. Because politics is not just about qualification, there are many factors. And it's not about the qualification that Professor Yemi Osinbajo has gotten it wrong. It is about all other factors other than qualification, which to a large extent, in fact, is what determines who a politician is. Because if you go by qualification, Anybody above the age of 18 and not above certain age, as required by law, of a sound mind, has not been convicted, does not have lunacy, is by law qualified to run for office. But when it comes to this concept that we're talking about, it's quite much more than that. And that is why, in my view, when I suggested that Professor Yemi Osinbajo was not running, because if he does that, it will be injurious. Now, let me state the injurious factor to you. You may have noticed that since yesterday.
Well, it looks like, I lost Bola for a bit. Now, the conversation, if you just joined us, the conversation hovers around the elections coming in Nigeria for the 2023, and specifically we have party members looking at it. We'll take a moment, we'll come back and join our guest. Well, apologies for that glitch in the connection to our guest. Now we're back, and I just go straight to Fouad Oki, who is a chieftain of the All Progressives Congress here in Nigeria. Fouad, you know, how should the party, now we're talking about the candidates, heavyweights, and good to see you, Daniel Bola, good again that you're back. Apologies again for that glitch. Quickly here, I'll let you complete your train of thoughts now that I see you're back, Daniel, but that is after I'm done with Fouad. Let's talk about the APC. As a party, how does the party approach the current situation with the caliber of people aspiring to vie for the presidency? Now, I want you to sit with this in accordance to what you have highlighted, pretenders and contenders, without telling us of any names, who the pretenders are, if you don't mind.
Well, before now, they are all considered to be pretenders. And once they start to come out one by one, they will shift from pretending to coming out to contend. So now we have Senator Bola Tinubu, we have Professor Yemi Osinbajo, we have the Honorable Minister of Transport, Mr. Amaechi. Apart from these three, okay, and also His Excellency Governor Yahaya Bello. Apart from these four, all the other wannabes are nothing but pretenders. All the other wannabes, until they boldly come out to say, I am interested in throwing my hat in the ring to run for the presidency. Until then, they will continue to be pretenders, or what we call wannabe. Now, of the pretenders, we will now begin to see in the coming days the real contenders that will be willing to contest. Mind you, some of these contenders may still drop off for one reason or the other along the way. Some of these pretenders may not even come out at all to contend. Until that happens, we will not know exactly. It's like the grain and the chaff. You know, you will necessarily need to get the grain out of the chaff. So when we get contenders, we begin to now sift the grain out of the chaff to see who amongst them will actually contest in order to become or wanting to become the candidates of the party. Already some of these contenders are feeling the heat with the event of the last 24 hours or thereabouts. And I am getting worried. If anything is to go by, I think the question that was put forth to Senator Bola Tinubu and his responses, for me, is worrisome. It's sad. You can see by its body language that he doesn't seem to be like somebody who is ready to square it up in the kitchen. Unfortunately, his attitude of being entitled will also not help him, because hitherto it's been exhibiting, this attitude of, what I call self-indulgence in nothing but wrong feeling of entitlement. And when you look at its body language yesterday, when a question was posed to him about being the father or the son, it is not about his response, but about his body language. And I hope this is not what we will see in coming days. I really hope not. So I'd rather at this point not talk about pretenders. I would rather talk about the contenders and see how far they will go to become contestants.
Let's bring in Daniel here. Now, they've dug deep and pretty much maybe, as Fouad said, that in the days to come, we just might be seeing some other big names. But your party, specifically speaking, Daniel, has some notable big names. As he puts it, Fouad puts it, these are the contenders. Do you think that this might be a problem for your party, at the primaries with the heavyweights? And from what we've seen with that statement from Bola Tinubu about not having a son grown enough to contest?
Right. First of all, I do not, the only time I think, in fact, I'm even working on an article that one way by which our party will crash is if we decide that we're going to do consensus in the presidential primaries. The best thing to do to avoid the problem is to throw the contest so that anybody who believes he has the capacity should go and contest it. Now, if we go into contest, I don't think we're going to have a problem. But making the reference to what Asiwaju said yesterday, anybody who happens to be in the shoe would have felt the same way, because he was taking about, if you listen to the speech of Professor Yemi Osinbajo, he made reference to consulting with Mr. President and governors. He never mentioned that he consulted with Asiwaju. Now look at why I believe that the disposition of Asiwaju was quite surprising. Number one, Asiwaju introduced Professor Yemi Osinbajo to politics, made him Attorney General. After he finished serving, kept him afloat and relevant in the process of political processes. And then when the idea of President Muhammadu Buhari should run with a Christian came, Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, against all odds, submitted the name of Professor Yemi, when at that time, I think it was reported that Buhari asked for 3 names. That suggested the kind of confidence and trust that Asiwaju had in Professor Yemi. In fact, much more later I heard the reason why he insisted on Yemi was because he believed that the kind of personality of Yemi, having observed him over the years, the fact that he's a pastor who will keep to his word, that when it is time for him to run, Professor Yemi will honor the oath of character, the oath of name and personality. And that is why he was quite shocked and surprised that Professor Yemi will come out. But I do not think that Asiwaju is afraid of Professor Yemi, because in the coming days, what people are going to do is that they are going to interrogate the claims of any contestant and contender, and not pretender, against their evidence. So, for example, if you take on the speech of Yemi Osinbajo yesterday, you see that he categorized his speech into 4 places. He talked about the economy as his strength. He talked about the idea of his servanthood or loyalty. He talked about his participation in security intervention. Then he also talked about the idea of continuing on what President Muhammadu Buhari started. Believe me, in the coming days, when we begin to interrogate that, you will find that Yemi Osinbajo may not even be near Asiwaju. And let me just give you a graphic example. The economy, which happens to be the strongest strength of Professor Yemi. You know that that is the only aspect of governance that the Constitution devolved to the Vice President. But let me tell you something. Throughout these 7 years that Professor Yemi Osinbajo piloted the economic affairs of this country, we had unemployment rose from 9% to 35%. Inflation ran from 9% to 25%. The dollar jumped from 197 to $1 to 580. The fuel from 87 to 162, and the GDP declined by $41 billion. And anybody who knows President Buhari knows that this man, when he gives responsibility to you, he does not interfere. In fact, that's why he's being criticized as somebody who does not supervise someone. So the biggest strength of Professor Yemi Osinbajo is his weakest point. Now, if you are going to juxtapose that with Asiwaju, because since he left Lagos, he has not had the privilege of governing anywhere. You can only judge him against the time he was governor in Lagos. Everybody knows how he turned the IGR. Everybody knows how Lagos became different from every other state during Asiwaju. So on the economy alone, when they begin to interrogate, you will see that Asiwaju, Bola Tinubu will flow Osinbajo. Let me tell you the second one. He talked about the servanthood and loyalty. You will see his opening words. In the last 7 years, I have served under, then he began to mention the president, the patriot, a this, I served faithfully and loyally. In the coming days, a lot of people will take a different opinion to that. And they will tell you how that in the past 7 years, Professor Yemi Osinbajo's office as the vice president was run like a parallel government to the government of President Buhari, to the point where it was alleged at the time that anytime Muhammadu Buhari transmit power to him and travel abroad, he will go ahead and appoint people into critical places of the places where the president is already considering a file on his table. Professor Yemi Osinbajo will proceed and to appoint people, and Buhari will come and it will present the case of fait accompli. It has happened several times during the period. There are people that would also tell you that during his time as vice president, any executive order that did not emanate from his office on the instruction of the president, he has never supported that. Some people will tell you that even the time when Buhari was sick and in London, when the people were putting pressure for him to come or resign, there are people who say Professor Yemi Osinbajo did little or nothing to counter that, as against those times when people rise against him, that he will be actively involved in countering that. So this is when it comes to loyalty. When it comes to intervention in security, there are Christian community that will tell you that Professor Yemi Osinbajo has had the privilege on several occasions during the pendency of this presidency, where power was transmitted, and he had the opportunity to negotiate and release Leah Sharibu and intervene in places where Christians were badly wounded. And Professor Yemi Osinbajo did not do that. And the reason they said he did not is because around those times, he exercised the same power in giving appointment to his friends and cronies that are now participating in pushing for his agenda for presidency. Then he talked about the idea of continuing what the president started. In fact, this is where people will tell you he wants to buy the emotion of the president, because every president in his second term will want anybody that will succeed him to complete what he has started. But there are people that will tell you that a man who could not be loyal to the person who introduced him to politics can never be loyal to complete what his principal has started. And a classical case is when Yaradua died. His 8-point agenda was thrown through the window by Goodluck Jonathan, and a different thing was started. And if you look at the antecedents, as people will tell you, of Professor Yemi Osinbajo, they will tell you that that is a lip service. There is no evidence to suggest that he will complete what President Buhari has started. So in the coming days, all of these things are going to be interrogated. I have only one fear before you go over to my elder brother there. The fear I have is that in every geopolitical zone, because it is obvious from our party that the power has been zoned in principle to the south. So you have southeast, south, south, and southwest.
It's like another glitch. I hope when I come back to you, we should be able to wrap up that very analysis on the zoning of your party to south. And let me come to Fouad quickly here. And I'm quite sure you've heard his analysis, dissecting the speech, what he feels about that declaration speech by Nigeria's Vice President, Professor Osinbajo. What's your take, to on some of the things that he's highlighted?
Well, I hope that Barrister Bola will come back very, very shortly.
He should.
I really do not think that by his analysis, that he truly understands the political environment and the shenanigans in the South, particularly the Southwest, and indeed Lagos State. He has shown very clearly where his pitching his tent. Fortunately for me, I am not pitching tent with any of the two. Indeed, I am doing what Baba Soja would always say. I sit down, they look. I sit down, they look because I'm so worried. I sit down, they look because I'm very scared.
I thought you were going to say, sorry to cut you there, I thought you were going to say you're watching, you know, because, or you're sitting on the fence because these two are close to you or were close to you.
That's where I'm going, Sulaiman. And that's why I hope that Barrister Bola will be back to join us. I know the two personae very, very well. I've worked very, very closely with the two personae. There are some narratives which, you know, it's out there, which it's unfortunate. And someone like Barrister Bola needs to be extremely careful with some of these narratives. Where we come from, there's a popular saying that when you are chasing after the person that is owing your father, you also must be very careful not to meet with the person your mother is owing. And I want to say this very clearly. With all modesty.
Is that an African adage? I'd like to learn on that.
It is Isaliko. I'm not too sure whether it's African, but I know it is Isaliko.
That's part of Lagos.
Lagos, downtown Lagos. That be careful when you are chasing after your father's, you know, I'm a debtor, so you don't meet your mother's creditor and the way. You see, this narrative about somebody bringing somebody is not good for all of us, and we need to run away from it. Why do I say so? Man is God to man. Somebody must have given Bola Tinubu a break. And I don't want to begin to mention names here and there. So when you now begin to look at somebody as not being loyal, as backstabbing, we need to be extremely careful. Extremely careful. I am standing on a pedestal of being, to God be the glory, a midwife of several elections, not just in Lagos State, not just in Southwest, but in a few other states. Should that mean that I should begin to see myself as benefactors because when they are really challenged, I was there? Or rather, seeing myself as part of the team that was able to do the job. The narrative about Professor Yemi Osinbajo becoming vice president, it's not exactly what my brother is painting. And I do not want to dwell into that. Rather, I want to plead with Barrister Bola and several others that we need to be careful. You need to be extremely careful. Whoever eventually becomes the candidate of the party will need the other person or other persons. And if we begin to tear or begin to show our dirty linen out there, you see, we may win the battle and still not take the trophy home. The relationship between the two of them, it's not a relationship of giver and taker. Rather, it is symbiotic so much that they both need one another. They have things that goes beyond he was appointed as commissioner and he was nominated as vice president. And I will not want us to go there. If what we see today is just the baggage that surrounds contender A, we also need to be very careful because all of them contenders so far have baggage that we all need to be extremely careful in interrogating. If we want our party to do well, there are some things we should try not to begin to put out there in the public space.
And
one of the things that may also not work, for Senator Bola Ahmed Tinubu, again, it's the same thing that some people want to accuse PYO for. My brother,
I'll come to you, Bola, just a minute. I'll come to you, Bola.
But we must also understand that the Afenifere caucus of Southwest progressives also feel the same way about Senator Bola Ahmed Tinubu in 2003 up till this date. Hence, you see Papa Adebanjo coming out to, make statements that are not too complimentary. Why do I say that I stand the look? In all honesty and in good conscience, I should not be any of those who at this point will support A and not B. Rather, I will leave them. So whoever becomes the candidate of the party, then we'll take it up from there. So my darling brother, Barrister Bola, like you will say up north, please let's make it kadang.
And
so
quickly, let me butt in here. Apologies. Let me butt in here quickly here. Before I come to Bola, quickly here. You said that the version that Bola has told of how Professor Osinbajo emerged, Nigeria's vice president, as a candidate at that point in time isn't the true picture. You just might want to give an insight into what you know on how he emerged, if you don't mind.
No, you see, there are some things that you don't just put out there. Because whilst wanting to save certain issues, you may create more problems. Someone like me cannot do memoir, cannot do biography, because the intendment of such efforts may create more problems. I would rather allow sleeping dog lie. I would rather allow all of these contenders, you see, to come out, not to tear each other or not to tear themselves, but because our party has problems.
Let me go to Bola here then. That said, quickly here, so we're not even calling, for that break because of time loss, because of glitches here and there. Daniel, good to see you again. And quickly here, first, I want you to complete your train of thoughts on zoning to the south, which you were on before we lost that connection to you, and also you to react because I saw you, wanted to butt in when Fouad Oki was speaking. Perhaps maybe you can start by letting us in on your thoughts on what he just said before you go to the zoning.
Okay, I was actually taken seriously aback by the use of the word be careful, extremely be careful. And I counted it not less than 20 times my senior brother used that word. That word is a word that one should retract because it's undemocratic. In a society of free speech, you don't gag people by the use of words that are suggestive of threat or words that are suggestive of intimidation. That's why in politics, in order for you to avoid people expressing opinion about you, don't run for politics. In America, they will say once you are a celebrity, you lose the right of some privacy. So people can snap pictures of you, they can comment about you because you are a public figure. And if you go to America, England, and anywhere in the world where political parties are beginning the process of sieving to get representatives of their party and they engage in debate, you will hear things more hotter than what I am saying. So I am really surprised by the use of the word be careful. I am not a careless talker. If you carefully listen to what I said, I use the word.
If you feel offended, I'm sorry. I do not mean it. So I do not mean it like that. It is offhandish. But if you feel offended, I'm sorry. But let me quickly say something. If you are in my shoes, if you know the two of them, if you know the two of you'll have it. But if you know the two of them, maybe you'll feel the same way I am feeling. Maybe because at the end of the day, It's not about winning the war. It's about costing them with the trophy. So, but if you feel offended, I'm sorry. I do not mean that.
It's okay, Bong. I appreciate that. I appreciate your humility. But I am making the point that, you see, I'm a northerner. I'm not from the Southwest. And that is boiling down to that point I was saying, which Mr. Sulaiman was talking about, me landing on it. When I talk about each geopolitical zones of the South, people are beginning to come together. You know, the forces are beginning to come down towards a particular person. For now, from what we are seeing in the space, the Southwest appear to be the favorite to clinch the title. And so having a common front in the Southwest is fundamental in winning. Before the declaration of Professor Yemi Osinbajo, there was no opposition of any kind or contest of any kind in the Southwest about the candidacy of Asiwaju. And we know that quite a number of them are interested. Fayemi is interested, quite a number of them. But Professor Yemi Osinbajo's declaration, you cannot stop the people from talking. Like, for example, most of what I said as the process that led up to him being nominated for vice president, they are not conjured facts. All you need is to read the book by Baba Bisi Akonde, except if someone is telling me the man should not be respected or should not be factored as an elder statesman from the Southwest. I am reporting what is published and it's in the media space. Secondly, in the last 24 hours, the media people can tell better. In fact, in the introduction, Mr. Suleiman talked about a lot of people are beginning to say, these are what people are saying that I'm reporting. That's why I say in the coming days, people will interrogate this, and these are facts that I've read. People will interrogate this area, they will interrogate this area, they will, and you can never stop them from interrogating that. In fact, the conversation will even be hotter in the coming days. It's a fact of democracy. That's what democracy is all about. Free speech within the ambits of the law. Me, my concern as a northerner is that I look at the Southwest as, of all the southern geopolitical zone, as one that is more likely to clinch. But the declaration of Osinbajo, I am telling you the truth and I lie not, is beginning to diminish the chances of the Southwest. And if care is not taken, in fact, this is what is going to taint the character of Professor Yemi, might taint the character of Professor Yemi for many years to come. If by this declaration, and they continue to move and it becomes frosty to the point where Southwest miss this opportunity, Southwestern people, the Yoruba nation, will continue to think that Professor Yemi Osinbajo stopped their chances. Yet, when I started, I told you he has a right. I told you he's qualified. And I told you what makes politics work. It's not more of a right and qualification. Are those factors that are other than that? Why do you think political party introduced what they call consensus? Because politics recognize that apart from law and legality, there are aspects of political process that requires people to engage. There will be host trading. There will be compromises. Somebody will concede to do this and let this. And it is within this prism that Osinbajo and Asiwaju's relationship has now become a public space. There is no conversation people will talk, whether in APC or outside APC in the coming days, that can be considered as washing dirty clothes in the public. The very fact of his declaration is taking the clothes to the public. People will talk about it. That is all I'm trying to say. Did you hear me in the first place attacking the character of Professor Yemi? I started by telling you he's a professor of law, somebody we highly respect, somebody we highly hold with regard. All of these things are fact nobody can deny. But in this politics of the 2023, by his declaration, okay, how can Asiwaju, an elder statesman, will speak to a point my elder brother said even the disposition of Asiwaju created a worrisome situation? You observed it by yourself. And I told you that statement. Somebody, I was asking someone, a Yoruba man told me today, a Yoruba man told me this morning that statement by Asiwaju, that it carries a weight. In fact, I was thinking what he meant by my son, none of my son has grown up enough to declare. It is just to say that this man cannot just declare. The guy was telling me, a Yoruba elder man, today we met in Transform. He said it has three connotations. The first connotation is that he disowned Osinbajo politically. He said the second connotation is that it is anathema for your son that you raise to rise up and challenge the seat you are sitting. And the third, if Professor Osinbajo had consulted him to say, I want to run, assuming he did, and Asiwaju said, no, don't, and he decided to proceed, the response of Asiwaju today would have been different. He would have said, he has personally told me, but me too, I'm interested. There was a time Asiwaju was confronted with the question, the young are the ones to take over government. Why are you running? He said, me too, I'm a youth now. There was no consultation. There was no communication. It can never be as smooth as we're thinking. The die is cast. And so people will look at morality, they look at ethical conduct as we proceed into looking at the Jamaican.
Let me throw in a personality who's been silent in all of this. And I'd like Fouad to weigh in on this before I come to you, Daniel, because it's the same issue. And it has to do with President Buhari, who's been quiet about his choice. Is it a case of it being too early, or how significant is his, utterance or, silence to any of these candidates' aspiration?
Yeah, well, you see, because President Muhammadu Buhari is the man in the saddle, he also needs to be extremely cautious of what he says. He will ordinarily not want to rock the boat. Why do I say that? Expectedly, there will be many people interested in the presidency. And they're coming out early or too early to show any preference will have heated the party and the polity so hot that we may not be able to handle it, especially against the background of where we're coming from. You can see the way the convention went. And for anybody before then or even now to come out, just as my brother was saying, that in the coming days we are still going to see so many people. It will have been fait accompli on whichever side. And recall what he said, that if I mention the person there to my heart, they will kill him. They will kill him not like K-L-I-L-L, but they will kill him because there will be gang up against such person. And clearly one thing we must know, which Barrister Bola has also alluded to, the only way for us to possibly remain in the hearts and minds of Nigeria in February 2023 is to truly and genuinely throw the race open, so that the fittest, and I choose my words, not the best, but the fittest amongst these contenders can become the candidate of the party. And every other person will see clearly that he is not cheated, but that his best is not good enough. Anything short of that may bring big problem for our party. So the president, I'm doing what I think it's right. You want to run? Go ahead. You want to run? Go ahead. Not discouraging anybody and not showing any preference, at least publicly. And I want to give kudos to him, because it's also helped to manage.
Let me bring in Daniel again. Apologies there, Daniel. Time was when many Nigerians and political watchers will use words, adjectives like body language. So the president has been silent. What about the body language? Do you see any, tilting towards any of the candidates?
Right. So, this president I know, and I know him personally. When I talk about personally, to the family. And when people then drop the president in political process, most of the times where we are, we crack jokes, we laugh about it. Even the emergence of this chairman, in the build-up to this convention, there were some governors that were quoting Mr. President said that. And on air, I was interviewed, I said, he never said anything. The last thing president does, and this is his characteristic, is to tell you this is my candidate or this is my candidate. The closest he can come to it is if a party takes a position, he will adopt the position of the party as his choice. But he has the right to support any candidate. After all, Obasanjo supported Yar'Adua and asked a lot of people in the primaries to come down. People have right, even in America, people can indicate. But this president is different. He does not want to be seen as interfering. And if you ask me for his body language, I can tell you this, and believe you me, the president does not have anybody that he has currently pointed out to say is that person. But I know that the camp of Professor Yemi Osinbajo were early, and I'm saying that because I've had a conversation with the closest person to me. They will be quoting, saying that the president said he is going to bless Yemi Osinbajo to take over from him, and they will quote a governor in the Southwest. They will say the governor had a meeting with President Buhari some years ago where President Buhari said that the person that will succeed him will be a Christian from the southern part of Nigeria, and that emphatically it meant that person. But you see, this is permissible in politics because some people want to take advantage of anything in politics to drive home the message. But the president, as I tell you today, even this Abdullahi Adamu, the president did not particularly pick interest in him. How the president was convinced to arrive at him, the first time his name was presented to the president asked the Progressive Governors Forum, why did you come to me without the caretaker committee? I thought I asked you people to sit together and agree. When they came back to him and said, that is the chairman that they've all agreed, he now said, okay, give me your list and then I'll give you my input. When they brought to him, he did not add any name. He returned this thing back to them and said, okay, it's all right. He has given his blessing. He signed, and that's how they took. The conflict at the time was that there were some of them who felt that when some people went to him and said, this is the concluded, this was the decision of the Governors Forum, that it was not a final meeting they had. But in any case, when they came, the president had given his word.
I know we're almost out of time. I must put this before both of you, before I leave, and we have about 4 minutes to wrap up. Starting with you, Daniel, since, well, it looks like you have your ears to the ground, and perhaps, what if, have you also heard that your party may be considering, some form of outsiders? Two names have always popped up. First, the governor of Nigeria's central bank, and just lately, Pastor Tunde Bakare.
The Pastor Tunde Bakare is not in any consideration, and the governor of the central bank is a creation of some people around the presidency, and quite frankly, that is an embarrassment. In the coming days, we are going to ask the president to sack him as the governor of the central bank, because it is an embarrassment to government that a sitting governor of the central bank will be participating in politics through proxy and then denying that he's not running. For sure.
Okay, we'll come to Fouad now. Two key things here. I want you to also react to that. If there are other names being, brought up by party bigwigs as possible contenders in the days to come. You did earlier say that more things will unfold.
Well, I have an attitude, and my attitude usually it's maybe born out of my knowledge and experience of this game. I hardly take people serious until they truly and genuinely come out. The issue of Professor Yemi Osinbajo has been on for about 3 years, because I was involved in the 2019 as Southwest coordinator. And I know each time we go out, I know what his own people say. Something like, we are doing this preparing for 2023. And my usual attitude is, who says you will be there in 2023? That who says you will. So the issue of Yemi Osinbajo, Professor Vice President, for me, it's not new. The same thing with the governor of Central Bank and other pretenders. It is only in this climb where people think anything goes that you can see it happen. In Senate clients, the day a single poster of his was seen on the street is the day he will have dropped off or will have been sacked. Ditto the other pretenders that are in cabinets. And I think one of the things that gladdens my heart is the Electoral Act 2022, which I call the Levelers Act. We are starting it. Maybe we may not get there in 2023, but surely we are moving in the right direction. And I see this, getting all of these things that are not too palatable, off the space or off the way for us. So I am not looking at anything until such individuals begin to seriously come out. And for me, again, in the case of these two gladiators from the Southwest, born out of my relationship with them and whatnot, I will just wait and see. I will continue, contrary to what my brother feels, I'll continue to preach to them that when you are doing what you are doing, trying to get Nigerians to buy, remember one thing, which my brother just spoke about. If they are not careful, we will not only lose the trophy, we will also lose the race. And the way they are going, I can put a bet on it. The way they are going, if they are not, again, permit me to use the word careful again, because it's the way I feel. With the way they are going, I know of so many things, and I know of what the consequences may be.
Let me bring in Daniel. He wants to say something before
As
we
of
close,
this
because
evening,
I'm out of time
it's
now.
not looking good for either of them.
All right, Daniel, Daniel, so let's do this quickly, if we can do this in 30 seconds.
Let me tell you and you can take home this message. If this election, this primary election, is actually between Asiwaju and Rotimi Amaechi, if the primaries is by consensus, Amaechi will emerge. If the primaries is by contest, whether direct or indirect, Asiwaju will win. And I'm telling you this, there are deeper things than that. Osinbajo is not close. He's not in the equation. I'm telling you this.
I think that's a sound bite I think my producer should leave for our viewers. Well, if it's a sound bite that I love, and it's a sound bite for us to really say many thanks for being such nice company. Fouad Oki, you've been awesome all the way, always. And many thanks to you, Dina Bola, all the time for giving us your thoughts on the Village Square. And that's it today, Africa. We'll keep watching and seeing how 2023 unfolds in Nigeria. I'm Sulaiman. See you again.